My name's Corey Widmer. I'm the lead pastor here at Third Church, Richmond. So Third has been around for about 185 years, but we moved to this particular location in 1954. Since then, there have been all sorts of iterations of the campus development as the congregation has grown and changed and shifted, and throughout those decades, obviously the neighborhood has changed, the surrounding environment has changed. We are in an old building here that has, over the years, had various appendages attached to it, and so it's an old, pretty inefficient building. We're a growing congregation, so we have about 12 or 1,300 members, really in a building that was designed for a smaller congregation of 300 or so, and we've really known for the last 10 years or so that we needed to do something to address our aging facilities and to modernize the infrastructure here. But we're also going through really, I'd say, almost a theological renewal in the life of the church, realizing that we want to be a church that cares deeply about our neighborhood, first of all, and about our city. We've been really affected by this particular scripture from the book of Jeremiah, in which the people of God are living in exile in Babylon, and Jeremiah the prophet comes to them and says, I don't want you to settle down in your own little private enclave away from the city. I want you to give yourself to the cultivation of the city and to seek the word, the Hebrew word is seek its shalom, seek its peace and its prosperity and its flourishing, because when it prospers, then you too will prosper. So we've been really affected by this vision to be a church that isn't just caring about our members, but to measure the success of our church by how we're contributing to the flourishing of the surrounding community.
My name is Andrew Moore, and I am an architect and a trustee here at Third Church. About a year and a half ago, I was given the opportunity to speak here at Third about how my role as a creative professional intersects with my faith. During the course of that talk, I flashed a slide up on the screen, which was simply an aerial photograph of our property and our little corner of our neighborhood here, the neighborhood center at Forest and Ridge in West Ham, and simply asked the question, what impact could we have, should we have on our neighborhood? If we have the opportunity to change our footprint, change our physical environment, how can that help this neighborhood to flourish? That led into my role as a trustee to have a guiding hand in how this process unfolded. I gave a call to my friend Mike Watkins, who I know from the Congress of the New Urbanism. He's an expert in doing these kinds of public engagement charrettes, and asked him if he'd like to get involved, and fortunately he said yes.
My name is Mike Watkins. I'm an architect and town planner and a friend of Andrew Moore. He was telling me about the church that he's a part of and the exciting way in which they're growing that is rooted in neighborhood. So with the encouragement of Third Church, we brought together a team of architects and planners and landscape architects, and we have an illustrator with us. And we have been meeting now for the past several days with residents from the community, with business owners, with leaders from the school, and a number of others who use the properties in the neighborhood for various purposes throughout the week, to learn how they use it and what issues they face, what could work better, what they really love about the place. It's a neighborhood that is very well established. We did uncover that there may be a few opportunities to even improve the neighborhood still further, and that's what we're attempting to assist them with.
We're beginning with this charrette process because it's really enabling us to hear and listen to a whole constellation of voices from the neighborhood, from the school across the street, from the businesses that are nearby, from our own members, and even from county representatives and so forth, so that we can really begin to think together about what a flourishing neighborhood and a flourishing community might be like, and how our particular church might contribute to that.
One of the exciting things about this effort is that it is being initiated by a church. And when you think about it, churches preach community, loving your neighbor. It's not such an extension to love your neighborhood. And this church really does love its neighborhood. Typically, we produce master plans and propose ideas about how the physical environment might grow and change. But here what's interesting is that this process, they've done such a good job, I think, of inviting folks in, that neighbors are meeting one another. We've had meetings where business owners have said, well, I've always seen that shop down there, but I've never been in. I didn't know that was your business. And for a church that's interested in fostering relationships, that's already happening. What we hope to do further is to offer up ideas about how to reshape the built environment in a way that facilitates that community.
I've been really influenced by the work of Eric Jacobson, and in his books he often remarks on the fact that the relationship with the American church to the surrounding built environment and the surrounding community has really changed, especially post-World War II and the advent of the automobile and the interstate system. That it used to be, and really throughout history, that the church had a much closer relationship with its surrounding community. The church saw itself as being of and for the neighborhood. The community had responsibility for the neighborhood and the community, whether or not the people in that neighborhood were members of the church.
I am Eric Jacobson. I am a pastor from Tacoma, Washington, also an author of a couple of books, Sidewalks in the Kingdom and The Space Between. And I've been thinking about the relationship between churches and neighborhoods for almost 20 years now. I was invited to be part of this process because I know the pastor and I know some of the folks that were invited to be involved with the planning in Charrette, and was just excited to see a church actually taking these ideas of being a good neighbor, being part of the shaping of the neighborhood for the flourishing of the neighborhood, and connecting with the neighbors, taking those ideas and taking them seriously enough to really start doing things about it and having real conversations and making plans for really changing the neighborhoods.
It's been really amazing having the Charrette team here because my own imagination is opening up. I think in some ways as we move into this future together, we can begin with a whole lot more creative input and a whole lot more ideas in place already as we move into the process that would just not be possible if we hadn't begun with this kind of open planning process. So I'm really excited about what it will do for our church, but even personally as a leader of the church, I think it's a really, really unique thing that is being offered to us through this process.